Good evening and welcome back to Poe Discussions with Carmen and Jeanie.
Hello.
And tonight, hey Jeanie,
Mm-hmm.
how's it going?
As usual, I'm just the voice in the myth, the mist. So yeah,
All
that's
right.
good.
I was gonna say, kind of funny. The Svengoolie tonight is showing the mist, the Sven Squad later on in the evening. That's kind of
Ooh,
very odd that you said that.
yeah, it is kind of weird. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, our special guest this evening is Christopher Ross Martin. And so, welcome, Chris. We're so happy to have you on here. And
Well,
if you will tell us a little bit about yourself.
hi, thank you for having me. Name's Christopher Ross Martin. Could go by Chris. That'll make things a lot easier.
Okay.
Professional actor. Been working professionally since 2013.
Okay.
Live out in Pasadena, California, suburb of Los Angeles. Full-time actor, and one of my roles I play frequently is Dracula.
Very cool.
Yay.
How long have you been playing Dracula?
I've been playing Dracula for about 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
So is Dracula some like a part like that you've wanted, like was that something like, oh man, I want to play this at some point, or was it just kind of happenstance?
It was kind of one of those things that it felt like it was right, like all the stars were kind of lined up. I'm also a big fan of like scare seasons, so all the haunted houses, the theme park scare zones, like all that. I started out at Not Scary Farm. Oh my God, aging myself, like 2001.
Uh-huh.
And the first house I was ever in was Laura the Vampire, which
Oh,
I,
cool.
yeah, so everything's kind of come around full circle. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I do get cast a lot as villains. So I think that Dracula was kind of the natural selection.
Okay. Was Dracula something that like you've like liked, or like Universal monsters and things like that, like since you were younger, or
It's kind of funny because like I never really like was like I'd always like the Universal monsters, but I never really like delved into them
Mhm.
very much. And the more I kind of delved in, like I really find myself liking the creature. I love liking the kind of the misunderstood
Mhm.
creatures and monsters. And then when you get to Dracula, it's like there's really no misunderstanding him. He's he is a violent murderous creature, and he's got the great privilege of disguising himself as a human, a wolf amongst the sheep, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I remember the first time I've read the actual novel Dracula twice. And the first time I read it, I was expecting something so different. Jeannie, I don't know about you, but I knew it was in journal form, but it's like he's really hardly in the book. I mean, he's there, but he's just in like just around everything. And so
He's his presence. Yeah.
yeah, and I thoroughly loved the book, but I was expecting something a little bit different, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Well, with me, it was an unexpected surprise the way the book was put together, but it actually fit so well when you think about Dracula and the the myth around Dracula, how it's more of the idea of
Mhm.
Dracula that preys on the person and their psyche rather than the actual person. So I think that's what made it so much better because it
Yeah.
was a psychological aspect of it.
Mhm.
Because we know, well, maybe not everybody knows, but the idea of Dracula comes from Ivan the Impaler.
Right.
Back from the way back in
uh,
time. Yeah,
Vlad the Impaler. Yes.
Vlad. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. No, Ivan the Terrible and Vlad the Impaler. Good Lord.
Yeah,
way
they're
too,
they're
way,
both not nice guys. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
And in the same time period of close enough anyway. So
right.
sorry, got those
No,
two
no.
kind of merged together. So yeah, Vlad the Impaler. Yeah, because he would bathe in the blood of his enemy to and sometimes drink it just to make himself more powerful. And that's where the whole kind of legend of Dracula kind of developed into because he would stick their heads on spires around his castle walls. And, oh, yeah, there you go. That's one, and he drained all their blood. So, Dracula, I think when Bram Stoker was writing the book, he was already playing off of the myth and the legend and trying to infuse that into the readers of saying, "Oh, I'm here and I'm always watching, and when it's time, I will appear. I don't always have to be there." You know?
Yeah.
So and that's one of the things I was wanting to ask you about, Chris, about your character when you played Dracula. Do you um do you do kind of like some kind of research and do some method, like, take some inspiration from previous and then, kind of make it your own? Because I know as an actor, you have to research the characters and, kind of make them your own. So I was kind of curious about your process.
My process, especially with Dracula, is you were 100% right. Going off of Vlad the Impaler, that is, I love that. Um, History about him, and
Hmm.
I think that the impaling part is just it's. I mean, I don't know what the rating is of this podcast, but I mean the impaling is just about as graphic as you can get, and he did
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
had it down to such a science that like they were kept alive while impaled for days. So
Hmm.
it was so he definitely used the psychological aspect when I believe it was some servants from the Ottoman Empire came to visit him and they
Hmm.
didn't take off their turbans. He sent them back with nails in their head because they
Yeah.
didn't want to take show the respect. So I think using him as a catalyst, as that's his base. That's about as bad and in of a person as you can get. But then now we have a person who has supernatural powers, who made a deal, if it were, and now he has the ability to be immortal. So I think that playing him now, you kind of see an evolution with him.
Hmm.
He gets with the times, but I think that like all, I'm just going to say it, like serial killers. I think once they
Yeah.
hit their mode that works for them, they kind of like stop. And I mean, I looked
Yeah.
up a lot, like HG or God, what's that? H. Holmes,
Yes.
Yes.
going off of that to where he developed different techniques until he found the one that worked for him with the hotel. So
Hmm.
I think that Dracula, that's where he kind of got it, is to where he so lost his humanity that he became this demon. And I think that he's been using the facade of this royalty to kind of, that's a get out of jail free card. I can get into high society. No one's ever going to question me because I
Hmm.
have this title of count.
Hmm.
I run Transylvania. This, no one's going to second guess me. So I like to play him as a monster. I think he is this beast. He is this demon who uses human mannerisms, and he learns from them. So I think he has a great way of blending in. But every sorry, my cats are being fed.
Oh, it's
That's all
okay.
right.
I feel that every once in a while the monster kind of slips out. Like he'll be very proper, he'll be very greeting everyone, but then he'll see a
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then just that little brief second of you get to see that little instance of what really lies beneath this
Yeah.
person.
Persona. Yeah.
Mm,
Awesome.
exactly. Is there one of movie specifically of Dracula that is your favorite?
Man, there's
That's
so
why I
many
loaded
good,
question.
there's so many good ones. I think I'd have to break it down to three. There's three that I really like to use as an example. The original Bela Lugosi Dracula.
Yeah,
I love Gary Oldman in Bram Stoker's. I think
it's
that
so good too.
Oh yeah.
I think he hits the book just a little just on the nose. Like I like being able to see Dracula out in the daylight because it never really directly says that daylight kills him. It's just that
Yeah.
we've always kind of seen him in the nighttime. It's like, well, that's when he hunts. So of course that's when he's, going to be relevant. And then the other one most recently, and I didn't think I would like it as much as I did, was the Curse of the Demeter, where it's a movie about the ship that transfers Dracula's coffin
Mhm.
from Romania into England. And
Yes.
now we have this. Oh, okay. Now it's a whole movie. Great. Now Dracula's on a boat and we can't escape. It's like one of the worst case scenarios you could ever be a part of.
Yeah, I've
Now
heard.
talk about fast food. They wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and
I've heard.
he's probably in his most bestial form, I think, in that movie too,
Hmm.
which I kind of really
Okay.
like.
Yeah, that's a movie that is on my list to watch. I remember it when it came out. I wanted to go see it, just didn't get to because of time. And I was like, I've heard it's really good.
Yeah,
So,
pleasantly surprised from that
oh,
one.
good.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, good. Jeannie, anything else about vampires that
Oh,
you
I
want to
can
ask?
go on and on about vampires. I love
Yeah,
vampires.
me
I
too.
do too.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Vampires and well, the Wolfman never really was a I didn't dislike the Wolfman. It was
Mm,
just more outrageous. Now I could see, I could see kind of like what you were saying, Chris, with the serial killer parts of it. How there's
yeah.
always even with serial killers, you look in their eyes and you can see the monster behind the mask.
One
So
hundred percent.
yeah, that's why I think I was always vampires kind of. There was actually a serial killer that way back in the day. It actually happened in California that there was this killer that he would kill and he would drain their blood in the bathtub.
Mm,
And this happened, it was like, I think 70s. I can't remember. It's in a book by Robert Ressler, who was an FBI agent who was a profiler. And it's in the book called Whoever Fights Monsters, the story about it. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting because I'm like, yeah, I mean, he was a serial killer that was acting out his fantasy, and that's what serial killers do. They have this innate need for
Mhm.
something to fulfill.
right.
And so that was trying to fulfillment. And like you said, the organized serial killer is when they find that perfect formula to do
Mhm.
what they need to do, and then they can fulfill it, but nobody knows it
Yep.
because it's less. They're not as erratic. So, but okay, so yeah, I guess we'll move past the vampires. Um, and I did see on your IMDb that I was like, oh, I saw the face, and I'm like, where have I seen that face before? And then I saw that you have a credit for Scorpion. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's it. I couldn't exactly remember what you played in it until I looked at your IMDb, but I was like, I knew that face.
Yep.
So I was like, I actually liked that show the first couple of seasons. It kind of got went off after that. But how was it? I have to ask because I like the one that played Cade Gallo, Robert Patrick. I've
Yeah.
loved him for years,
Yeah.
Mhm.
way back in the day.
I did get to meet Robert Patrick on set. He's a total sweetheart of a man. He's super nice. That was a super fun shoot to get into. I play a lot of Eastern European
Yeah,
parts.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
as King of Dracula. So learning to develop voice and accent and learning to work the ins and
yeah,
outs of the certain characters. So when I go to auditions, I normally always go in character. So when
yes,
it's as soon as I walk in the door, yeah, hello, I'm Christopher. I'm here to read role. So that's what, before they know it, it's like, wait a minute, we just cast a guy from Southern California. Like, too late. Like, you got me. So,
Yeah.
um,
Too late
so
now.
like, yeah, too late. Yeah, it was great being able to. Yeah, that's shot at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles,
Mhm.
which
Okay.
is one of my favorite. I mean, if you ever are close to the downtown LA area or are visiting, the Biltmore Hotel is just a gorgeous piece of art that is a hotel.
Oh,
They shot Ghostbusters in there.
Mhm.
There's just so much. I believe before they were televised, the Academy Awards were hosted there as well. I mean, just some of the
okay.
most beautiful scenery in a hotel you can see. So I would 10 out of 10 recommend the Biltmore. Um,
Cool.
yeah, it was a fun shoot. It was fun to play a Russian guard. I think I get pulled over. I get one put on over on me by the leads on it. So it
Oh
was,
yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
that
that
was
is
cool. Yeah. So
yeah. And then I did not watch every I haven't watched every season of American Horror Story, but
Hmm.
it looks like you have a credit from there as well.
Yep, I do. I was in American Horror Story Apocalypse was the
Okay.
season. Yeah, it's I think 3 or 4 episodes in when everything's kind of gone to hell, and there's
Mhm.
a couple of radioactive mutants on the beach, and I got to play one of them,
Oh,
which
cool.
was super super fun because one of the coolest things for me about notwithstanding getting shot by Billy Eckner, that was a treat in itself. I think was the makeup artist I worked with. His name was Christopher Nelson, and he's
Mhm.
Academy Award winning, Emmy Award winning
mhm.
makeup artist. So having to been worked on by him to sit in that chair for hours, and I love every minute of it. I'm one of those guys that just are actors that just loves to transform into characters. So I think when I'm sitting in the chair and just watching these layers being put on me, it's just one of the coolest feelings to see yourself becoming this this monster or this type of
Oh, yeah.
person.
That would be kind of surreal, seeing it all come, together and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why the show Face Off, that was talking about the special
Yeah,
effects artists and everything.
yeah,
I loved those. I watched every season of it. I loved seeing behind the scenes and what they would do and turn all these people into monsters and how they would fabricate things. So what so going off of that, what's the longest you've had to sit for makeup for any of characters that, and what was the most horror filled other than Dracula? You can add Dracula in there, but
right.
what was, so I'll leave it there so you can answer.
Got you. I want to circle back around to Face Off because I got a interesting story about that.
Oh, cool.
I did a sketch for a all girl comedy group, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a Game of Thrones parody, and I got to play a White Walker. And
Cool.
me
Ooh.
being that was a long time in makeup. I mean, that was
Wow.
from having the mask completely cast on to the face paint to the blue eyes, hair. I mean, it was a serious transition. I think I was probably looking at maybe I'd say anywhere between 2 to 4 hours in the
Oh,
makeup chair. So yeah, it was a good chunk of the day for sure. But like I said, I'm one of those guys that I could spend all day in the makeup chair. I'd be completely fine with it. So again, that was fun playing another monster role. And I believe the sketch was called. It was a Comedy Central sketch. It was called like Them Thrones, and it was an all African American female comedy troupe, and they were playing like
okay.
some of the only African American girls in the Game of Thrones universe. And then I come in and get slayed, and my death is kind of like drawn out a,
Oh
a,
yeah.
a little bit. So, but yeah, it was super super fun to work with. So that was probably the longest. Going back to the Face Off, I was shooting a project in Detroit, and they wanted me to look like an ex Russian gangster turned game show host. So the makeup artist who was on Face Off, and the name escapes me, I apologize, but he did me up in tattoos. So like Russian, like I had Russian stars on my hands, and I had all these. I had a Grim Reaper tattooed on
Ooh.
my throat, and they looked absolutely like 100% real. And then at the end of the day, I was talking with the producers, and they were telling me that we're probably just going to leave the tattoos on you because we're going to shoot again tomorrow. I said, absolutely not. I don't know what the Russian mafia situation is like in Detroit, but I do not want to find out. I am not
No.
going to be I am not going to be walking down the streets of Detroit. And it turns out too that the Grim Reaper on the throat meant assassin. So yeah, that was
Yes.
the
Wow.
last thing I wanted to do was get a little too close and personal with any Russian gangsters. So yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Clean it off. We'll do it again the next day.
Yeah.
I
Like,
don't
yeah.
blame you. Oh,
Yeah, that would not be a good way of an introduction to another part
no.
of society. It's like, I'm just playing a role. No.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way I can get out of that because if I was like, no, 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 I'm just playing this role as a joke, like, no, that's not going to work either.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
no.
no. No.
Mhm.
Yeah. Especially like you said, they looked very authentic.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
It'd be like, nope. All right, Carmen, it's your turn.
Yes, I was gonna say, so are horror roles like your favorite to play as an actor? Or do you prefer, like, are there other things that you like just as well, or that you're like hoping to play at some point based on just what's available and things?
Well, it's kind of funny. Is my background is actually in comedy. I
Oh, wow.
started. I started out in improv. I went through the Upright Citizens Brigade program in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
Graduated through it. So comedy, sketch, and background improv is my background. But I get pigeonholed a lot into villains and monsters and horror movies. And I honestly don't mind because there is a similarity between comedy and horror. I find because
Yes.
it's all about timing. It's about there's the setup, there's the the follow through. So I think it's all the beat points are there. The same as scaring, the same as making someone laugh. It's all kind of intertwines.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there's just something about villains especially that just always have interested me. Like you could think of the greatest movie ever, and if that movie was great, it was because the villain in it had to have been
Mhm.
100% good. So I think that having this character who is i- is the like wrong by society, but in their mind they think they're 100% right. They think
Yes.
that what they're doing is justified, and that in some way they're the hero of this story.
Yeah.
So I think between that and I think finding the reveal when you actually do see the villain or the monster at the end, because in the beginning they just seem like just seem like everyone else, and then I think when you discover the monster, that's I think about as good as reality gets, because how well do we know someone until
That's true.
we know connections so much on the surface level, until
Hmm.
you really find out about someone, and in some instances it's too late.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that brings me actually, I want to say this before I forget it, Carmen, sorry.
Oh, no, you go
That
ahead.
actually, when you were talking, that brought out because the villain that sometimes they don't have to actually be with monster makeup or anything, but Alan Rickman was the quintessential bad guy that everybody loved more than anybody, and he used humor in what he did. Because Die Hard popped right into my head as you were talking, because I
Yes.
was like, he was perfect because he was the bad guy, but he delivered it so well that you could not like him
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you would fall in love with that character. And
Mhm.
it's like with Frankenstein, the character of Frankenstein. He was built to be, and persecuted because he was unusual and different and all
Mhm.
this, but you couldn't help but love him because he was so misunderstood and he was
Yep.
Yeah.
all this. So yeah, and well, speaking of Poe, that was one of the things I wanted. One of the things that he loved to write was comedy with his horror.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Like especially in A Telltale Heart, you have the narrator who is basically losing his mind over the pale blue eye of the old man, and he thinks he's doing something right, but he is a true monster because in essence he dismembers the poor old man and buries him under the floorboard. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I love it how you said that comedy and horror work so well together, and it truly
It
is, but it's a art form that not a lot of people can pull off.
It,
Yeah.
it really is, and I think what's kind of funny too, especially watching people get scared, is one of the natural reactions is after people get scared is they laugh,
Yep.
Yeah.
and I think
That's
that
true.
that's funny because it's like I said, those two are it's that relief, it's that oh
Yeah.
my god that was, but we shared this same kind of moment of
Mhm.
vulnerability, and yeah.
I agree, and it's really like the comedy is the light to the darkness of horror,
Hmm.
and it kind of I was gonna use an example too, Jeannie, I'm glad you didn't steal my mine because I figured you would, but
Yeah.
the Cask of Amontillado with Montresor leading, um, Fortunato down to the catacombs to wall him up, and, as they're going down, it's this slow descent, the suspense is building, and then Montresor, like, or Fortunato starts coughing, and Montresor's like, "We can go back, we can go back." He like gives him an out, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to die from a cough." And it's like that's so humorous to think about that Poe would add that in, and knowing, if you've never read it before, how he really does die. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, because Poe wrote satire, quite a bit of satire, as well. He wrote the horror because that's what people wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
There was the one that I had the name of it and I forgot it, but
Okay.
the character who he accidentally burns down a house, and then ends up the horse comes through him, and then he
Oh,
ends up.
Singerstein.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yes, and that's a very overlooked one, and it's really good.
And I think that where you said the humor is, and it's kind of like that. The ironic is that he's accused of starting the fire and the murder, and then how he ends up going. I think is just it's you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
poetic. It's so poetic in a way.
Absolutely. Is that one of your favorites of Poe?
I think so. I think I really like the oh my god, that was the pendulum. I think is definitely
Hit the Pendulum.
Mhm.
Yes.
up there. Is the Masquerade of the Red Death is great. That I remember watching with Vincent Price playing one of the roles, and just
Yeah.
that to me is just yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a really, really good story. So, when you first kind of learned about Poe, was it in school or was it as an adult? We always ask everybody this question because we're curious.
It's so funny because like when I was in school, we learned a lot about. Oh, by the way, I have this with me. I wanted to show you. This is my little.
Oh, I
Oh,
love it.
cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so cool.
Nice. I
Yeah,
love it.
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, kind of right there. Give me some inspiration. But
Yeah.
it was funny because like I remember being in school and just kind of not really like you could hear it all you want, but it's just like I just wasn't like gravitating it. I'm not really an auditory listener. I have to have so much visual. So, but I
Yeah.
remember Simpsons Treehouse of Horror when
Yes.
they did The Raven and actually seeing it and like, oh, that kind of now that I could actually visually see what they're talking about, putting it to visually, I'm like, it definitely takes more of a sinister side of watching this guy completely just destroy himself over this. Well, even though it was Homer, but knowing that he's destroying himself over this loss, and he's
Mhm.
perpetuating a raven as a sign of death, and it hits psychologically. It's just so good.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely is. And a lot of people, that's kind of like a very fond memory for them is that first Treehouse of Horror with the Raven. And they did it so well. It's like, at that point, that was, first year. And because I think it was the second season that they
Hmm.
did the first Treehouse of Horror. And I remember watching it back then, and I was just like mesmerized. I was like, they did such a good job with it. And Poe has been inserted in other ones, in
Yeah,
years after. But to me, that's the best one. Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely is what kind of got me into like reading more of his
Okay.
works and going and watching like the films based off the short stories. And it's just
Yes.
yeah, he was definitely leaps and bounds ahead of his time.
Absolutely. Yeah, we like the Corman movies. I mean, some of them are, kitschy, but they're fun. They're a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah, I think if like you take into account when it was written, I think that kind of like takes a lot too. Is like by today, oh, excuse me, by today's standards, and it's like I even think Bart even says it's like that's not scary, and he's like, well, it was written 100 years ago. Maybe people were more scared of things by then, and it was like,
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And back then, you didn't have a visual unless you went to a play.
mhm.
So, yeah, when you think about it like that.
Well,
Jeannie?
during that time period, they also were taking pictures of with their dead relatives after putting
This is
makeup on
true.
them. So,
That
you
is
know,
so true.
they had a lot of horror film, on their own, but it wasn't filmed. It was actually in person
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
they had the 3 day of where you had to sit up with the dead to make sure they were dead. Then they
yeah.
tied the string around their finger when they buried them and put a bell on them in the cemetery, and people had to sit there. And if you heard the bell, well, guess what? They're not dead, so you had to dig them back up. So
I wonder if that was an actual I mean, I know it was an actual thing, but was there ever incidences where, like, maybe, hey, because there's a reason they do that, So I
yeah,
imagine
Yeah.
that maybe people were buried alive at some point.
There there
yeah,
are
there are actually
yeah,
accounts of
yes.
that was
Yes.
really happening because one of our episodes that we talk about was narcolepsy.
Oh,
And
God.
because
Mhm.
back then it wasn't an actual diagnosed, and they had different ideas about it, but it actually happened where people would go into like a comatose state
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they would think they were dead,
Or like
and they would
sleep
just,
paralysis or something of that
yes,
nature.
that's
Yeah.
it. And so, yeah, there were a few instances in history where, yeah, it really happened. So,
That little bell rang.
yeah, that bell rang, and it's
Absolutely.
like, okay, and when the bell tolls, gives you a whole different meaning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
one other thing that just popped into my head, and this relates actually back to vampires. I read a book. My husband suggested it to me. It's called Rabid. I don't remember who the author is, and it goes through the history of basically rabies.
Mhm.
And one of during the Victorian times, it talks a little bit about vampirism and that rabies, like some of the lore of the very early, like word of mouth tales of,
Mhm.
like early vampires, or there's another word that they called them too. It's just escaping my brain, but that it's possible that some of the lore from that did come from people that had contracted rabies. And
Yeah.
so it's a fascinating book. It's a
And it would make sense because there are accounts of like vampires from like all over the world. So it would make
yeah,
sense if having rabies, like, oh well, when here they do this, and over here they do this, but there's that one common thing. So I
yeah,
think if like you have like less educated masses living in the rural country, that
mhm.
you gotta something's got to come of it.
Yeah, and I was gonna say people at different times, especially probably, I mean, there's still superstitious people today. I mean, I think I probably have my own little superstitions, but even way back before a lot of people were educated, like you said, and in rural areas, they you don't know what you don't know, and they had no way of explaining it, so it had to be some type of, paranormal or just out of the normal, it just the abnormal states of people and how they're acting and why are they doing this. There's no explanation.
Yeah, and I think that even goes back to Dracula too, when you bring
Yeah.
Van Helsing in, because at first
Mhm.
when Lucy and they're writing about all this, it's like, well, we've done everything we can scientifically, and it's
Mhm.
nothing's adding up, like nothing
Yeah.
works, and so it's like, well, let's look at something a little off the scientific method and a little. So when Helsing comes in, I think that definitely kind of switches something for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just it is interesting looking at vampire lore and how people have adapted it to different things and styles throughout, up until today, today's time. I know, have you seen the new Dracula film that just came out yet?
I haven't yet, but it's definitely on my to view list for sure. Because
Yeah.
I think it's Luc Besson who did like Fifth
So,
Element, and
mhm.
yeah. So I mean, I'm there to see it easy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and it's funny too how vampirism, how it's not just one, like there's just so many different. FX had a show a few years ago called The Strain,
Hmm.
where vampirism was essentially like a disease, and it was just spread and spread. And I mean, that was a great take on it, is looking like this thing is a disease and it spreads like a disease. And I think that was a great way of showing it too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I can't remember. There was a movie I saw that they were treating it like it was a virus or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, that's a interesting take on
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
Well, and it makes perfect sense because most of the monsters, like vampires and zombies and all those, actually are based in some type of lore surrounding a medical disease.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like zombies is based off leprosy.
Yeah.
And then, vampires, they're actually, and I can't remember what, what century it truly was started, but I think it actually came from hemophilia, the disease of hemophilia, where people were, getting hurt and then they just couldn't stop bleeding. And then,
Oh.
people were being accused of bloodletting and killing them and stuff. So,
Mhm.
there's all these different things because, like we were talking about, in those days, they didn't have the capability because they were still learning and still investigating. So they had to
Mhm.
come up with something to make
yeah,
Yeah.
sense. And plus, they had all the religious and the superstitious, from the pagan to the, more organized religions. They all had their own kind of rite of passage type of thing. So,
Mm.
and it's just amazing how, you were talking about The Strain. I actually did love The Strain. I watched it. It was really good.
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, it's really cool when someone can make it and make it seem so real. It
Yeah.
crosses that barrier and it makes it. It's like I was saying earlier. I can believe more of a vampire than I can a wolf man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was just looking up because I couldn't remember if it was Carmilla or the vampire or the vampire, but it looks like vampire, by
Hmm.
John Polidori. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. But his was the first in 1819 because it came out of that same contest with Mary Shelley where Frankenstein
Hmm.
was created. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
it
she
just,
kicked all their butt.
yeah, she
Yeah,
did.
yes, she did. And she was like what, 18, 19 when she wrote that, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe she was 19. And the funny thing is it was, she originally it was titled Prometheus Man.
Mhm.
And then because they didn't no, it just didn't have the right ring, they changed it to Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And she fought, oh man, she fought so hard when they were trying to tell her, no, we can't publish it under your name because you're a woman. She's like, no, it's not going to be published unless it's in my name.
Yeah.
She was such a firecracker. I loved it.
Yeah, I love that too.
So, Chris, what have you got coming up next?
At this point, there's just a lot of auditions. We're kind of in that period where coming off the holiday season.
Mhm.
So I've read a lot of auditions and a lot of the Russian roles in the Europeans are they're coming. So yeah, in the meantime, I keep myself busy, improv when I can, and
Yeah,
try to de-stress.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I'm
that's
sure
like the
it's
hardest job of all.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure it is very intense doing some of the roles that you do, and you would have to find a way to de-stress from being playing that person as to who you are as a
Yeah,
person.
I like archery as a good
Oh,
way to
fun.
kind of clear my head because you're really not focusing on anything except that, and if you don't, you're going to get an arrow through the hand. So definitely
Yeah, don't do
gotta focus up.
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Well, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, if anyone is interested, you can follow me on Instagram at CRR Martin. Post some original content sometimes. But yeah, if there's any dates or shows or appearances I'll be on, I usually post it on there first.
Oh, great. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because well, that was one thing we were going to ask is, for our listeners and viewers, we always ask our guests to share that out. So that's awesome. And then, do you have a website or just mainly just on Instagram?
Just Instagram's the way
Okay.
to go. Yeah,
Okay. I think that's where everybody's moved to.
I think so too.
Yeah. Jeannie, anything else?
No, just thank you for joining us, Chris. It's been
Yes.
great to
Thank you
get to
for
know
having me.
you.
This was super fun.
Yeah, this was awesome. Very
And
awesome.
good luck. Good luck in the vampire world. You
Yes,
Yes.
know,
he and Edgar will be
yeah.
seeing everyone very soon. Well, he'll be not to this side,
Yeah.
not so much this one.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
one side is too much more of what he would actually look like today. So yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
without the hair, because
right.
I
Yes.
don't know. He might have a few strands left, but maybe not. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he could.
Yeah.
that's
He
true.
could.
Yeah, he could.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
I guess
We are
Poe
Poe.
out.